In the beginning, before form, before sound, there was vibration, the invisible pulse that carried thought into creation. Every word spoken by the human tongue is a seed dropped into that same vibrating field. The lips are not flesh alone. They are instruments of power, tuned to the great orchestra of universal law. When you speak, you summon. When you declare, you decree. Every syllable becomes a living messenger, moving through the unseen corridors of substance, arranging matter to obey the tone of your conviction. Few realize that the spoken word is not a mere echo of thought, but the generator of it. Thought may conceive, but the word gives birth. To utter is to release divine authority, for the word is the bridge between spirit and manifestation. Each time you speak, you vibrate with either harmony or dissonance to the higher law that governs creation, and the law is exact. It returns to you not what you wish, but what you announce. If one says, "I never have enough," the universe bows and replies, "So be it." If one declares, "All that is mine flows to me now," the same obedient universe opens its gates. The difference between the two lies not in the magnitude of the desire, but in the clarity of the vibration. The one who speaks from fear summons shadows. The one who speaks from faith calls forth light. The law of the spoken word is ancient and impartial. It does not judge the worth of the command. It only fulfills it. Like the sea responding to the pull of the moon, the invisible world moves at the call of your tone. To misuse this power is to shape the storm against oneself. To use it rightly is to ride the tide of creation. When a man or woman speaks with conviction, the words leave the physical realm and enter the realm of law. They do not vanish into air, but continue living, forming conditions, drawing people, shaping circumstance. Every word is an arrow, and once loosed, it cannot be recalled. That is why the wise speak few words, and the pure of heart speak only truth. For to speak falsely is to create falsely, and false creation is chaos made flesh. The power lies not in the volume of the voice, but in its inner charge. A whisper, spoken with unwavering belief, carries more weight in the spiritual ether than 1,000 shouted doubts. The universe listens, not to tone, but to certainty. It listens to what you feel behind what you say. The law of the spoken word answers vibration, not vocabulary. There is a sacred alignment that occurs when word and belief become one. When thought, emotion, and speech merge in unity, the word becomes law itself. This is why ancient mystics spoke of the tongue as the sword. It divides truth from illusion, creation from decay. The tongue is the sculptor of destiny. It molds substance according to the patterns you impress upon it through repetition and emotion. Imagine standing before the mirror of the infinite. Each word you speak paints upon its surface. Speak of lack, and the mirror reflects emptiness. Speak of wealth, and wealth begins to take form. But the mirror cannot lie. It must show you what you have declared. If you wish to change the reflection, you must first change the word. The secret is not in speaking mechanically, but in speaking from the inner altar. Every declaration must rise from calm, knowing, not frantic desire. To affirm in anxiety is to contradict the very faith that powers the affirmation. The soul that understands this law does not plead, it proclaims. It does not hope, it knows. And in that knowing, the word becomes flesh. There is a rhythm to creation. First comes thought, the silent image of what is desired. Then comes the word, the living current, that sets the image afloat into the sea of substance. Then comes manifestation, the return of what was spoken, now clothed in visible form. To interrupt this rhythm with doubt or contradiction is to halt the creative flow. But to keep the words steady, spoken in faith despite appearances, is to move mountains. The spoken word is never idle. It is charged with the life force of its speaker. This is why careless conversation breeds careless results. Every complaint, every jest of failure, Every declaration of fear leaves its imprint on the unseen. You cannot plant thorns and harvest roses, nor can you plant the language of poverty and reap abundance. The soil of the universe is neutral. It grows whatever seed you cast upon it. To master the spoken word is to become conscious of its creative charge. It is to measure speech, not by sound, but by spirit. When one begins to speak only that which one wishes to see, the outer world begins to rearrange itself to match that new frequency. Friends appear, opportunities open, coincidences multiply. But these are not miracles. They are the natural responses of law to word. Consider how many have spoken their own defeat into being. I can't afford it. I always fall ill. Nothing good lasts for me. Such phrases are not harmless. They are self-fulfilling decrees. To reverse them, one must reverse the pattern, not with struggle, but with quiet conviction. Everything I desire is already prepared for me. My health is radiant and sustained. Every good thing is permanent in my world. The new word begins to cleanse the old vibration, and gradually the external mirrors the internal change. The spoken word is not magic in the sense of trickery. It is divine arithmetic, cause and effect, written in vibration. Each utterance is a number added to the sum of your destiny. Speak enough fear, and the total becomes limitation. Speak enough faith, and the total becomes freedom. Every syllable counts. Every declaration weighs something in the scales of the unseen. It is not necessary to shout, to repeat endlessly, or to force belief. The power lies in simplicity, in the serene tone of one who knows that law obeys precision. A single phrase, spoken from absolute certainty, can shift a lifetime. It is done. All that I need is mine now. The divine plan unfolds perfectly. Such words, when spoken from a quiet center, are keys that open doors no human hand could turn. The law of the spoken word does not bend to emotion, but to alignment. Anger, fear, and desperation scatter the energy of speech. Peace focuses it. Thus, before one speaks, one must first still the waters of the mind. A calm word is a creative word. When the voice arises from peace, it carries the authority of heaven. In every life there comes a moment when the individual realizes that speech is not commentary on reality, but the command of it. That moment marks the awakening of power. Until then, the tongue is servant to the world. Afterward, the world becomes servant to the tongue. To speak consciously is to step into dominion. To use words unconsciously is to drift in the wake of one's own unguarded utterances. So guard your words as you would guard treasure. Let no phrase of defeat leave your lips. Let no idle jest of misfortune escape your tongue. Each word is a decree to the universe, and the universe has no sense of humor. It fulfills exactly what it hears. Train your mouth to speak only of completion, not struggle, of joy, not delay, of abundance, not waiting. The moment you begin to speak from the certainty that what you say is already true, the universe moves instantly. Doors long shut begin to open. People begin to appear who carry the missing pieces of your vision. The spoken word draws to you the actors necessary for your play of life. You need not chase or persuade, you have spoken, and so it must be. The ancients knew this, and spoke sparingly, for they understood that to speak was to shape destiny. Words were regarded as sacred fire, to be handled with reverence. And even now, those who learn to use this law find that their entire existence transforms not through toil, but through tone. The right word, spoken in the right spirit, becomes a command to heaven and earth alike. Each day, the law of the spoken word operates through you, whether you acknowledge it or not. Every phrase is a brushstroke upon the canvas of your life. To awaken is to pick up that brush consciously, to paint with intention rather than accident, to replace the language of fear with the language of fulfillment. For in truth, the only difference between bondage and freedom, between scarcity and wealth, between despair and peace, is the word you choose to speak. There are sounds that move the earth, and sounds that move the heavens. Every word that escapes your lips ripples through both. The voice is a tuning fork to the infinite, and when it vibrates in harmony with abundance, all creation responds. Prosperity is not an act of acquisition. It is a vibration, a rhythm, a silent current of harmony between you and the greater order of life. You are not required to earn it, chase it, or prove worthy of it. You are only required to vibrate with it, and the most immediate conductor of vibration is your word. When one speaks with joy, gratitude, or certainty, the sound carries frequencies that draw the corresponding form into experience. To speak from lack is to tremble on a discordant note. To speak from fullness is to sing the true tone of creation. Every phrase you utter adjusts the pitch of your reality. The tone of I have differs entirely from the tone of I need. The universe hears not grammar, but energy, not meaning but frequency. It bends toward the steady rhythm of assurance, as a flower bends toward the sun. Prosperity vibrates like music, steady, generous, circular. It has no fear of depletion, for its song is endless. When your words match that song, your life begins to hum with the same rhythm. This is why some souls walk through the same market as others, but leave with baskets overflowing, while others find only emptiness. It is not luck that fills their baskets, but vibration. Their speech is in tune with the invisible melody of supply. To understand this law is to realize that every spoken word is a note in your personal symphony. Some play in minor keys of worry and complaint, and the world echoes their melody back to them in the form of struggle. Others rise in major chords of faith and gratitude, and the echo that returns is opportunity and ease. The outer world is a chamber of resonance. It repeats whatever you sound into it. Think of a tuning fork. Strike one, and another of the same pitch begins to vibrate across the room. No one touches it, yet the energy leaps invisibly through space, awakening its twin. So it is with your words. When you speak with faith and prosperity, you strike the tuning fork of abundance in the unseen, across the fields of possibility. That vibration awakens its match, situations, people, and chances that carry the same tone. They begin to move toward you, drawn not by effort, but by harmony. There are those who say, "But I have spoken good words, and nothing has changed." The reason lies in the purity of vibration. A sentence repeated without belief is like a harp played by untrained hands. The melody is dissonant. The law answers not repetition, but resonance. When your heart trembles in fear even as your mouth declares faith, the sound wavers. But when inner emotion and outward declaration move together, when the heart and words strike the same note, the invisible orchestra awakens and performs its miracle. Vibration is older than speech. It is the breath of the soul, the pulse of stars, the hum that holds atoms together. Your words merely shape this primal hum into pattern. Prosperity responds to those patterns as the ocean responds to the moon. You may try to seize the tide, but it will slip through your grasp. Yet if you harmonize with its pull, you can ride its power without struggle. The same law governs wealth, opportunity, and success. They are tides, not trophies. To speak from harmony is to move with them. Every time you pronounce a word about yourself, you send out a vibration that encircles you like a field. Say, "I am blessed," and you surround yourself with radiance that attracts blessing. Say, "I am unlucky," and the vibration thickens with resistance. Energy does not debate. It simply obeys the dominant tone. The one who lives in continual complaint unknowingly strengthens the magnetic pull of misfortune, for energy seeks its equal. Likewise, the one who blesses everything they touch expands the circle of good until it covers all circumstance. The vibration of prosperity does not require loudness. It requires alignment. Even silence, if filled with quiet assurance, hums with creation. There are times when the most powerful word is not spoken, but breathed, a calm exhale of faith that whispers, "It is well." Such still vibrations are the highest frequency of prosperity, for they emanate from perfect rest. Rest is the sound of confidence. It tells the universe that you have already received, and the universe rushes to mirror that certainty. Many wonder why the rich in spirit grow richer, and the anxious grow poorer. It is not morality, but magnetism. The spirit rich in gratitude emits a frequency that multiplies. The spirit poor in fear emits a frequency that divides. Each draws its own likeness. This is the true arithmetic of vibration. Words are numbers written in sound, and they add or subtract according to their tone. Speak of sufficiency, and you multiply. Speak of lack, and you divide. The vibration of prosperity is circular. It moves out and returns magnified. When you bless another's success, you amplify your own vibration. When you envy or resent, you interrupt your current. The generous word expands your field. The bitter word contracts it. Thus, to live in prosperity, one must speak as if already crowned with plenty. The lips must learn the language of fullness, long before the hands hold its proof. For the unseen world always answers the sound before the sight. There is music, even in the ordinary words we forget. Carry power. Thank you. I receive. All is unfolding perfectly. These phrases ring with clear tone, free of resistance. To dwell in them is to let the inner harp vibrate with divine rhythm. Over time, the outer life begins to echo that harmony, in tangible ways, new doors opening, debts dissolving, ideas quickening. It is not the language itself, but the frequency behind it that rearranges the fabric of experience. When you change the vibration of your words, even the air around you shifts. People feel it before they understand it. They are drawn to your calm, your radiance, your certainty. They call it confidence or luck, not realizing it is vibration. Prosperity hums through your speech like sunlight through glass, and those who stand near you feel warmed by it. You need not convince them of anything. Your tone persuades where arguments fail. There is a sacred rhythm to speech that aligns perfectly with abundance. It begins with stillness, flows into faith, and blooms into declaration. First, silence your doubts. Next, feel the quiet joy of knowing. Then speak as one who already stands in fulfillment. That is the true vibration of prosperity, a sequence of being, not doing. The voice that follows this rhythm carries within it the creative authority of life itself. Words are not sounds that end. They are frequencies that continue to echo. A declaration made in faith may circle the unseen for days, weeks, or months, gathering the form of its fulfillment, like mist condensing into rain. The wise do not cancel it with contradictory words. They wait in silent expectancy, knowing the vibration will return as substance. The seed is already alive. It needs only time to mature. The vibration of prosperity cannot coexist with complaint. To murmur about delay is to send out static that distorts the signal. Gratitude is the tuner that restores the clarity of sound. Every thank you clears the channel through which abundance flows. The more you praise what already is, the stronger your connection becomes to what is coming. Gratitude is the amplifier of prosperity's music. The energy of words clings to objects, rooms, and memories. This is why spaces where joy was spoken feel warm, and places filled with anger feel heavy. When you speak words of prosperity in your home, the walls absorb them. The air retains them. Over time, the environment itself begins to hum with that energy, and whoever enters feels lifted. You live within your spoken atmosphere. It is the invisible architecture of your destiny. You may test this law by small experiments. Begin each morning with a phrase of abundance. Today, all that I need arrives easily. Speak it not as hope but as truth already written. Let the vibration settle into your chest, your breath, your pulse. Then walk through your day, observing how events shift to match the new tone. You will see the proof, not through effort, but through harmony. The external world is a chorus waiting for your cue. To live by this understanding is to become a composer of experience. Every conversation becomes a melody, every declaration a chord. You begin to sense when your words fall flat, and you adjust their tone as a musician tunes an instrument. You learn that joy sharpens clarity, fear dulls resonance, peace sustains pitch. Life ceases to feel random. It becomes music you can shape. There are words that rise like morning bells, and words that sink like stones. Choose the bells. Choose the words that lift, that glow, that carry the vibration of promise. Speak them softly, but consistently, until the air around you hums with the rhythm of certainty. Prosperity is not far. It vibrates already at your threshold, waiting for the word that matches its song. There is a stillness between thought and manifestation, a silent breath where the seen and unseen meet. In that breath lives the moment of alignment. It cannot be forced, nor can it be imitated. It arrives when the spoken word and inner knowing merge into a single current, when belief ceases to tremble and becomes identical with its declaration. This is the sacred instant, when creation no longer feels like effort, when the speaker and the word become one vibration, one decree, one certainty. All true manifestation begins not with action, but with this invisible harmony of being. The mind may hold many desires, but until its belief moves in rhythm with its words, nothing stable can appear. It is as if a harp is played with one hand out of tune. The sound wavers, beautiful perhaps, but powerless to move the heavens. Alignment is that tuning. It is the moment when the sound of your word carries no contradiction within. You are no longer asking for abundance. You are speaking as abundance itself. You are not hoping to heal. You are pronouncing healing as a completed truth. The universe, sensitive as a stringed instrument, responds only to that note of wholeness. In this law, effort is noise and faith is music. The one who strains to make something happen sends mixed vibrations into the field, half faith, half fear. But the one who speaks from stillness sends out a pure tone. When the inner conviction matches the outer declaration, the world has no choice but to echo it. The moment of alignment is therefore not loud, not frantic, not even emotional. It is quiet, serene as dawn light, and yet in that quiet, the invisible begins to move mountains. There is a deep simplicity to this. Imagine two rivers, thought and word, running side by side. As long as they remain separate, their currents disperse power. But when they merge, when word flows directly from the still conviction of thought, a great tide is born. That tide moves outward into creation, gathering every circumstance required to fulfill itself. In that instant, your command becomes law, not through might, but through harmony. The universe obeys not domination, but unity. To reach alignment, one must cleanse the inner voice of doubt. Doubt is a second vibration, a static that distorts the signal. It whispers beneath affirmations. But what if it fails? What if I am not worthy? Such inner murmurings cancel the clarity of command. The law does not punish doubt, it simply mirrors it. It gives you more opportunities to prove your uncertainty true. Therefore, the wise do not fight doubt. They dissolve it in understanding. They remind themselves that the word itself is power, and that power needs no proof. The moment this truth is felt, not thought, not repeated, but felt, the alignment begins. Alignment does not require effort because truth does not strain to exist. The sun does not labor to shine. It simply is. In the same way, divine law does not require persuasion. You do not have to convince the universe of your worthiness. You have only to cease contradicting your own decree, once with full faith, and then rest in the stillness of completion. The moment your word no longer feels separate from reality, it has already taken form in the unseen. Many search for this moment in rituals, repetitions, or endless affirmations, thinking that more words create stronger vibration. But words are not bricks. They are notes. A single true tone can awaken 1,000 unseen responses. When your statement comes from unity, one whisper is enough to turn the wheel of destiny. It is not quantity, but purity, that commands creation. The aligned word is charged with authority because it carries no division within. This moment of alignment is subtle, yet unmistakable. It feels like release, not effort. You sense it in the body as calm assurance. The heart quiets, the breath deepens, the striving ends. The desire that once felt far now feels present, as if the air itself has shifted to accommodate it. This is the instant when the invisible mechanism begins its work. You have entered the frequency of fulfillment. Every condition required for your vision starts rearranging itself, drawn by the magnetism of your certainty. When alignment occurs, you no longer need signs. You no longer watch the clock of manifestation. You know. And because you know, time becomes your servant rather than your master. The outer world must bend to match the inner decree. There is no haste in this knowing. It is serene, absolute, complete. It carries no anxiety about outcome, because the outcome already exists in essence. You have spoken from that essence, and essence never fails. Alignment is the bridge between word and manifestation. Without it, speech is mere vibration in air. With it, speech becomes command in spirit. The unaligned speak from memory, fear, or imitation. The aligned speak from truth, and truth vibrates through all layers of being until form itself reshapes to reflect it. The moment you speak from that deep accord, the law moves, instantly, silently, and irrevocably. The reason alignment is rare is because most speech is born of contrast, a desire to change what is, rather than a calm recognition of what eternally is. The moment you stop arguing with reality and start affirming truth, you cross into harmony. To say, I am rich, while feeling poor is friction. To say, I am rich while knowing that riches already exist in the invisible storehouse, awaiting your recognition, that is alignment. The difference lies not in the words, but in the vibration behind them. The outer world will often test your alignment. Appearances will rise like shadows, asking, do you still believe? But the one who has touched true alignment answers not in defiance but in peace. It is already done. They do not flinch at appearances because they understand that manifestation lags behind vibration. The physical must catch up to what spirit has already declared. The one who holds steady through the apparent delay remains in the frequency of fulfillment, and fulfillment rushes to meet them. When alignment is perfect, even silence speaks. You no longer need to repeat the word, because you have become the word. The vibration of your presence alone declares it. You walk as the living proof of what you once only affirmed. Others sense it. They feel the calm power around you, the certainty that cannot be shaken. This is not pride, but resonance. The vibration of someone who has merged with their own decree. Alignment cannot be achieved through willpower. It must be realized through surrender. The mind's control dissolves, and faith takes its place. You cease to fight for the manifestation and instead allow it. You stop forcing outcomes and begin trusting the flow. Paradoxically, this surrender amplifies your command, for the universe moves freely through the unclenched heart. The moment of alignment, therefore, is both the highest act of faith and the deepest act of rest. It may come suddenly, a flash of recognition in which all doubt falls away, or it may unfold gradually, as years of divided speech melt into single-pointed conviction. But whenever it comes, it is unmistakable. You feel the shift from asking to knowing, from seeking to embodying. You are no longer outside your desire looking in. You are within it, breathing its atmosphere. Every manifestation carries such a moment within its birth. It is the invisible click when the lock of resistance opens. Sometimes it happens after a long season of contradiction, when finally the soul grows tired of struggle and releases. Other times it comes quietly, in a whisper of faith that says, of course it is so. And from that whisper, the world rearranges. When alignment becomes your habit, speech becomes creation. You begin to measure your words, not by eloquence, but by harmony. You pause before you speak, listening for that quiet resonance that tells you the word is true. You let go of everything that feels forced or hollow. In this way, your entire vocabulary changes. It becomes cleaner, lighter, more radiant. Every declaration you make hums with life, because it arises from certainty, not effort. The moment of alignment is not a future event. It is always available in the now. It waits at the center of your breath, in the pause between fear and faith. Each time you return to that center, you feel the truth stirring again, the knowing that what you speak with love and conviction cannot fail to take form. The word aligned with belief becomes not just a sound, but a bridge from the invisible to the visible, carrying your destiny across the quiet river of faith. There exists beyond the reach of the senses a boundless treasury, a storehouse of every good and perfect thing that can ever be desired. It is invisible not because it is absent, but because it is pure vibration, awaiting the command of consciousness to take form. Every soul is heir to this treasury, though few claim it. They wander through the visible world, begging for what already belongs to them, blind to the abundance that surrounds them in unseen substance. This invisible treasury does not measure wealth by gold or possession. It measures by alignment with divine supply. It is inexhaustible, impartial, and responsive to the spoken word. When you speak in harmony with divine law, you open the door to this treasury. It does not require toil or cunning, for it is not earned but recognized. You need not chase wealth when wealth already resides within your spiritual inheritance. The act of speaking from faith is the act of turning the key. Every affirmation of abundance, every declaration of completeness, draws from that hidden storehouse and shapes what the eye can see. The world calls it coincidence, but the wise call it law. The invisible treasury holds everything: ideas waiting to be born, opportunities unseen by reason, people who will cross your path in perfect timing, and forms of prosperity the mind cannot yet imagine. When you declare, "All that is mine flows to me now," you send forth a vibration that summons your portion of that infinite store. Nothing new is created, for creation is already complete. What you call manifestation is merely your awareness catching up with what already exists in spirit. The invisible becomes visible the moment you recognize it as yours. The great error of humanity is believing that supply is limited. This illusion of scarcity binds the mind and shuts the gates of the treasury. People compete, grasp, and hoard, thinking they must take from one another to survive, not realizing that the true source cannot be depleted. Every time one speaks words of lack, "I can't afford it," "there isn't enough," "life is hard," they shut themselves from the infinite storehouse that longs to pour into their world. The universe does not withhold. The individual withholds through disbelief. The invisible treasury responds to faith as naturally as the lungs respond to air. When you inhale belief, the treasury exhales provision. It is not a transaction, but a rhythm, a sacred exchange between the seen and unseen. As you give forth words of confidence, gratitude, and expectancy, the unseen world gives back form, opportunity, and result. To interrupt this rhythm through fear or complaint is to choke the flow of abundance, but to speak steadily in faith is to keep the current alive and strong. The treasury does not open to force. It opens to recognition. To say "I must get" is to declare separation from supply. To say "I already have" is to declare unity with it. The invisible realm is sensitive to tone. The word of one who knows their inheritance vibrates differently from the word of one who begs for favor. The first word commands. The second pleads. The law obeys the command, not the plea. Therefore the wise do not entreat heaven for blessings. They claim them. They speak as heirs, not as beggars. All true wealth begins unseen. Every invention, every business, every opportunity existed first as an idea, a formless vibration waiting for a mind prepared to receive it. When a person attunes their word to the frequency of abundance, they become a magnet for such ideas. The treasury opens its archives, releasing inspiration in flashes of intuition. These are not random, they are deliveries from the invisible world. The mind aligned with prosperity becomes a channel through which the unseen distributes its riches to the seen. To trust the invisible treasury is to walk in a peace unknown to those who depend on appearances. Appearances fluctuate, but the unseen supply is constant. When the outer world seems empty, the wise one turns inward and speaks, "My supply is unfailing, for it is rooted in the invisible," and almost immediately, new channels open. Perhaps a friend arrives with an offer, a forgotten opportunity resurfaces, or a new idea blossoms within. These are not miracles, they are responses to your vibration of certainty. The invisible treasury never runs dry, because it is substance, not object. It does not depend on economy, season, or circumstance. It is as infinite as consciousness itself. The one who lives by appearances rides the storm of change, rising and falling with the tides of the world. But the one who lives by divine law stands unmoved. They know that the outer form may crumble, but the source remains intact. They rebuild without fear, for they draw from a well that cannot be emptied. Words are the only currency accepted by this treasury, not words of anxiety, but words of truth. Each word of faith deposits energy into your invisible account. Each word of fear withdraws from it. To live consciously is to mind your speech as carefully as one would guard a treasure chest. Conceive only of sufficiency, gratitude, and unfolding supply, and your account grows until it overflows into physical reality. This is not metaphor, but mechanism, a law exact as mathematics. To dwell in the vibration of the invisible treasury, one must develop a sense of invisible ownership. Ownership begins in thought, before it appears in matter. When you mentally possess what you desire, not by grasping, but by knowing it as already yours, you align with the rhythm of fulfillment. The treasury responds instantly to that recognition, not because it favors you, but because your vibration matches its constant frequency of abundance. There is no competition in this law. What is yours cannot be taken. What belongs to another cannot be claimed. The invisible treasury distributes according to consciousness, not comparison. Therefore, envy is ignorance, and jealousy is blindness. To bless another's prosperity is to affirm your own. Each time you rejoice in another's success, you declare that abundance is plentiful and flowing, and the law hastens to prove you right. The invisible treasury is not confined to material wealth. It holds love, peace, health, guidance, and divine timing. When you speak for healing, you are not summoning something foreign. You are drawing from the perfect pattern already stored in the invisible. When you speak for wisdom, the answer does not come from outside. It rises from the infinite intelligence already within. The spoken word acts as a signal to the unseen, awakening dormant realities that await recognition. You cannot see electricity, yet you trust that it flows through the wire. Likewise, you cannot see this treasury, yet it flows through every atom of existence. The unseen current waits for the command of your voice to express itself. When you say, "Everything I need is already prepared," you plug yourself into that current. When you say, "Nothing ever works out," you unplug. The power itself does not change, only your connection to it. The law is impartial. The treasury serves the righteous and the reckless alike, depending on their vibration. The difference is that the conscious speaker shapes their words with awareness, while the unconscious one scatters them like dust. The conscious speaker understands that even idle talk has weight in the unseen. They refuse to waste speech on complaint or gossip, knowing each syllable plants seeds in the soil of the invisible. To access the invisible treasury, gratitude must become your language. Gratitude aligns you instantly with the vibration of sufficiency. It is the key that fits every lock, the tone that harmonizes with every note. When you thank life for what you have not yet seen, you demonstrate trust in the unseen. The invisible responds by hastening its revelation. Gratitude does not create the gift, it reveals it. The treasure was always there, waiting for acknowledgement. The invisible treasury cannot be hoarded. The moment you attempt to cling to its gifts, you fall out of harmony with its flow. Abundance is circulation. Like the breath, it must move in and out. Give freely, and the treasury replenishes you. Withhold, and the flow stagnates. The generous heart never runs dry because it draws directly from infinity. Each act of giving is a declaration of faith in endless supply, and the law fulfills that faith by returning multiplied good. When the outer world appears uncertain, the wise one remembers the invisible treasury and rests in its assurance. They know that beyond sight, beyond circumstance, abundance already exists. They know that every seeming loss is but the shifting of channels, never the drying of the source. They continue to speak words of wealth, peace, and certainty, even in darkness, and soon the light returns. Their prosperity is not luck, not chance, but alignment with the eternal storehouse that never sleeps, never diminishes, and never fails to answer the voice that speaks from faith. Every word spoken against oneself is a shadow drawn across the light of creation. The law does not interpret, it reflects. When you say, "I am tired," the law replies, "So be it." When you whisper, "I never have enough," the unseen scribe of the universe records it as command and sets invisible energies to make it true. To reverse negation is not merely to change language, but to transform vibration, to reclaim the tongue as the tool of divine affirmation rather than human limitation. The reversal of negation is the moment consciousness turns upon itself and remembers that all speech is decree, and every decree is destiny in embryo. Negation is the language of fear. It is the sound made when the soul forgets its origin and begins to believe in separation. To say, "I can't," is to deny the infinite that moves through you. To say, "It's impossible," is to contradict the law that governs worlds. Each negative word builds a wall around the treasury of supply and blinds the speaker to their own power. And yet the moment one becomes aware of this habit of limitation, the power to reverse it awakens. Awareness itself is the beginning of reversal, for no darkness can survive in the presence of light once seen. To reverse negation, one must first listen. The unguarded tongue repeats old patterns, complaints inherited from parents, fears absorbed from society, small phrases spoken without awareness. "I'm too old," "It's too late," "Things never work out." Each phrase is a subtle spell, shaping the atmosphere around the speaker. But the moment you hear yourself utter such words and pause, a space opens. That space is power. In that pause, you may choose again. You may replace the word of defeat with the word of dominion. The old vibration collapses, and a new one takes form. Reversal is not denial, it is redefinition. When appearances seem bleak, you do not lie to yourself. You lift your speech to truth. If the body aches, you do not declare, "I am not in pain." You say, "The life within me is whole and healing now." If the purse is empty, you do not say, "I am not poor, but my supply is infinite and unfolding perfectly." To reverse negation is not to ignore reality. It is to speak to the higher reality that governs it. It is the act of replacing the counterfeit with the original. Negation always begins with fear. And fear speaks first. It rushes to fill silence with warnings and doubts. But faith speaks last. And what is spoken last stands. The art of reversal is therefore the art of holding silence until faith finds its word. When fear says, "You will fail," wait, breathe, and allow the deeper voice to rise. "All things work together for my good." Speak that word, and the vibration of fear dissolves into harmony. The reversal has occurred. Every negation is an unintentional prayer. To say, "I always get sick in winter," is to pray for illness. To say, "I never meet the right person," is to pray for solitude. The universe does not distinguish sarcasm or jest. It receives the vibration beneath the sound. Therefore, humor wrapped in complaint still manifests as reality. The law takes you at your word, literally. The wise, knowing this, treat their words as sacred instruments. They no longer speak casually about misfortune or joke about failure, for they understand that speech is substance and thought is form in waiting. Reversal begins with repentance, not in the religious sense of sorrow, but in the spiritual sense of rethinking. The word repent means to turn back. To reverse negation is to turn the tongue back toward truth. It is a turning of consciousness from the shadows of complaint to the sunlight of faith. The moment you stop repeating what you see and begin declaring what is divinely real, the energy of life flows in a new direction. What was blocked begins to move. What was delayed begins to unfold. The reversal of negation is not moral reform. It is energetic correction. Negation breeds repetition of lack because it binds energy in closed loops. When you say, "I can't," you program your creative force to circle endlessly within that statement. It seeks proof to justify your word, and so it attracts confirming experiences, closed doors, silent phones, missed chances. But when you reverse it and say, "I am guided, I am able, I am equipped," the energy is released outward, drawing new situations to match the higher decree. The difference between imprisonment and freedom is only the direction of your speech. Many struggle with reversing their words because they fear hypocrisy. How can I say I am wealthy when I am in debt? But the law of the spoken word does not respond to your bank balance. It responds to your vibration. You are not pretending. You are proclaiming. You are not describing the present. You are declaring the eternal. To speak abundance in the face of lack is not deception. It is mastery. You are asserting the invisible over the visible, the cause over the effect. Eventually, the visible must yield. The power of reversal lies in rhythm. You must train your speech as you would train an instrument. Each time a negative phrase rises, you gently correct it without frustration. "I never have time" becomes "time expands for me effortlessly." "People always forget me" becomes "I am remembered and valued in divine order." In the beginning, this feels mechanical. But soon the new rhythm takes hold, your entire vibration shifts, and the old phrases fall away like dried leaves. You no longer have to force positive speech. It becomes your native language. The body itself responds to this reversal. Words of peace relax its fibers. Words of fear tighten them. Speak harmony long enough, and health follows naturally. Speak conflict, and dis-ease appears. The cells listen to the tongue. They align with the vibration you broadcast. This is why ancient mystics healed through words alone. They understood that the body is water and light, easily shaped by sound. The modern mind may call this impossible. Yet even science observes that frequency rearranges matter. Speech is frequency clothed in breath. The reversal of negation therefore restores not only mind but body. Negation also hides in subtle forms, in sighs, in silence, filled with worry, in the tone of resignation. Words are not always spoken aloud. Many are whispered within. The reversal must therefore occur inwardly, as well as outwardly. When you catch the inner voice saying, "This will never change," answer it gently. "Everything is changing now." Speak it mentally until peace returns. The inner conversation becomes the outer creation. Every correction of thought is a seed planted in the garden of manifestation. As you practice reversal, the world begins to mirror your discipline. People who once echoed your complaints start reflecting your calm. Opportunities arise where frustration once stood. Even chance encounters shift in tone. The law has no choice but to harmonize with your new vibration. Your words are no longer weapons turned inward, but instruments of order, calling forth beauty where confusion once reigned. To live by the reversal of negation is to stand guard over the gates of the mouth. It is to refuse entry to words that contradict divine law. It does not mean pretending that difficulty does not exist. It means refusing to give it authority through speech. You may acknowledge challenge, but you no longer identify with it. You speak of outcome, not obstacle. You declare, "This too is working for my good, and so it must." Every reversal strengthens the muscle of faith. At first, you will catch the negative word after it has escaped. Later, you will sense it before it rises. Eventually, the impulse to speak limitation will vanish altogether. The mouth will become an instrument of praise, not complaint. The tone of your life will lift. The outer world will rise to meet it. Negation, once habitual, will seem foreign to you, a language of a world you no longer inhabit. To reverse negation is to remember who speaks through you. The divine does not complain, it declares. It does not lament darkness. It says, "Let there be light." When you echo that authority, you align with the creative rhythm of the universe. Words cease to be reactions and become commands. You speak as the law, not to it. Every syllable vibrates with certainty. The invisible world, hearing its own voice through you, hastens to obey. Negation is the forgetting of power. Reversal is its remembrance. In every sentence you have the choice between bondage and release. One word of fear can bind, but one word of faith can break the chain. To reverse negation is to stand again in your rightful place as co-creator, shaping the unseen with intention rather than accident. Each time you choose the higher word, you re-enter the current of abundance, where every decree becomes law, and every law bends toward fulfillment, harmony, and the radiant perfection that has been yours since before speech began. There exists a chamber within the mind, where worlds are born, not the imagination of fantasy or idle dream, but the sacred imagination, the divine workshop through which unseen substance becomes visible. This imagination is not invention, it is revelation. It is the eye of spirit seeing through the veil of matter, shaping the invisible into patterns the world must later obey. Every castle, every fortune, every discovery first appeared within this inner sanctuary as image before it appeared as fact. Sacred imagination is therefore the architect of destiny. The one who learns to hold its image unwaveringly becomes a master builder in the realm of creation. In this chamber, words and pictures are one. To imagine prosperity is to vibrate with it. To picture health is to align with it. To visualize peace is to summon it. The mind that understands this begins to treat imagination not as pastime, but as instrument. Sacred imagination is the altar upon which the spoken word is made flesh. Each image held in faith is a blueprint impressed upon the unseen. The universe, exact and obedient, fills in the details. The substance of things hoped for takes shape around the outline of your inner vision. But imagination becomes sacred only when purified of fear. The ordinary imagination is full of restless images, worries, regrets, and anxieties that form negative pictures. The law does not discriminate. It creates according to the strongest impression. Thus, if fear dominates, it paints the same power in darker tones. The imagination must be sanctified, its walls cleansed of haunting shadows, before it can serve divine purpose. To purify it, one must discipline thought as an artist disciplines brush and color. No image of failure, loss, or humiliation must be allowed to dwell there, for what is held there long enough will seek expression in the outer world. When imagination is sacred, it becomes the resting place of faith. The inner picture and the spoken word merge, and together they vibrate with the frequency of creation. The law of life, which forever seeks expression, moves through that vibration as river through a carved channel. It brings forth results that seem miraculous to those who live by sight, but natural to those who live by vision. The world calls such people dreamers, yet it is the dreamer who moves mountains, for mountains are merely thoughts made dense. To use sacred imagination rightly is to picture the good as already complete. You do not visualize as one hoping, you visualize as one remembering. The image must feel finished. You must step into it as an actor steps into a role, breathing its air, hearing its sounds, touching its form. In this rehearsal of reality, emotion is the paint and feeling is the brush. The stronger the feeling of possession, the quicker the manifestation. You are not pretending, you are invoking. The universe cannot resist the vibration of fulfillment, because it recognizes itself in it. The sacred imagination is not idle daydreaming, it is deliberate creation under divine law. It does not escape from the world, but reshapes it. The one who cultivates this inner faculty walks through life as a quiet magician, not performing tricks but revealing truth. They may appear calm, even passive, yet within their mind entire worlds rearrange. They see abundance where others see lack, and their vision alters matter itself. The world bends to the gaze of one who looks through the eye of spirit. Every image in the sacred imagination is a seed. The soil of the unseen nourishes it, and time waters it. Patience is the sunlight that ripens it into form. The impatient mind digs up its own seed to check its growth, destroying the harvest before it matures. But the disciplined mind plants and trusts, knowing that the unseen process is exact. When imagination and faith unite, gestation cannot fail. The picture must externalize, because law demands correspondence between inner image and outer condition. In sacred imagination, everything already exists. You do not create from nothing. You reveal what has always been. There are infinite versions of your life. One of lack, one of abundance, one of peace, one of struggle. By choosing which image to dwell upon, you tune into that reality. The universe is a grand mirror, and imagination determines what reflection it shows. To imagine failure is to open a door to it. To imagine success is to summon its likeness. There is no favoritism in law. It merely amplifies the image you supply. Many misuse imagination. By rehearsing fear, they picture unpaid bills, sickness, rejection, and delay, thinking they are merely worrying, but worry is negative imagination. The energy that could build palaces is instead building prisons. To reverse this, you must learn to catch the mind in its act of fear and redirect it gently toward truth. What if I fail becomes what if I succeed beyond measure. What if I lose becomes what if I am protected in every step. Through repetition, the current reverses, and imagination becomes an ally once more. Sacred imagination is not bound by present circumstance. It looks beyond what is and sees what could never be lost. It is not limited by logic, education, or environment. It answers only to divine possibility. A person surrounded by scarcity may close their eyes and dwell within a mansion of light, and soon that light begins to arrange the outer world accordingly. Imagination precedes provision. The image held with love is the mold into which substance must pour itself. There is power in imagining for others. When you see another through the lens of their perfection, you call forth that perfection in them. To hold a vision of healing for a friend is to offer the highest form of prayer. The sacred imagination acts as channel for divine restoration. Every image of peace, health, or success you project becomes a wave in the sea of consciousness, touching those attuned to receive it. Thus, imagination is not selfish fantasy. It is communion with the universal mind that holds all beings in one field. In sacred imagination, gratitude is the binding agent. When you picture your desire as fulfilled, and gratitude wells within you, the image becomes alive. Gratitude signals completion. It tells the unseen that you have already received. The universe, hearing that tone, rushes to match it in form. Without gratitude, the picture remains flat, like a sketch without color. With gratitude it gains depth, texture, and vibration. The emotion of thankfulness breathes life into the design. The mind that lives in sacred imagination begins to sense subtle currents beneath appearances. It sees opportunity where others see emptiness, light where others see shadow. This heightened perception is not fantasy, it is clarity. The imagination, trained in divine truth, perceives more accurately than sight. It no longer mistakes temporary lack for permanent reality. It knows that form is transient, but essence eternal. Thus, when appearances falter, the visionary does not despair. They return inward, repaint the image, speak the word, and reality shifts again. To cultivate sacred imagination, stillness is essential. The noisy mind, crowded with opinions and doubts, cannot hold a pure image. Silence is the canvas upon which creation is drawn. In that silence, you listen for the image chosen by divine wisdom, not by personal will. You may wish for wealth, but the sacred imagination might show you service. You may wish for recognition, but it might reveal peace. The true image always carries harmony. Never strain. It brings calm joy even before it manifests. The false image excites briefly, then fades into confusion. The heart can tell the difference. The sacred imagination must be used daily. For idle minds revert to habitual images. Before sleep, picture the life you wish to awaken to. Let your final thoughts be those of wholeness, freedom, and joy. The subconscious, unguarded during rest, will accept these impressions as law and begin to reproduce them. In this way, sleep becomes a workshop of creation. The next day's experiences arise as reflections of the night's pictures. Thus, every dawn is born from the womb of imagination. When imagination becomes sacred, it ceases to be a servant of desire and becomes an expression of divine will. You no longer imagine for personal gain alone, but for harmony, for beauty, for the good of all. The images that come to you, then, are luminous, filled with power, yet free of pride. They unfold effortlessly, because they are aligned with universal rhythm. You no longer chase visions. Visions choose you, and when they do, your only task is to hold them steadily, until they take form in the outer world. The world has forgotten that imagination is prophecy. Every civilization, every invention, every masterpiece was first seen inwardly before it was seen outwardly. The artist, the inventor, the mystic, all draw from the same inner well. What distinguishes the sacred from the ordinary is awareness. The sacred imaginer knows that the inner picture is not illusion, but the very matrix of form. They walk through life, not as dreamers escaping reality, but as creators defining it. In this understanding, imagination is prayer, without words. To envision is to commune with the creative principle, directly. Each time you close your eyes and see the good as already here, you converse with the infinite. You speak the silent language of energy, the dialect the universe understands best. Image, vibration, and faith blended as one. Through that conversation, all things are shaped, and all things respond. There is a divine quietness that moves before manifestation, a still and luminous faith that does not beg, does not plead, and does not rush. It is the calm expectancy of one who knows that the universe is unfailing in its response to vibration. Calm expectancy is not hope, it is certainty without tension. It is the still heartbeat beneath the chaos of appearances, the poised waiting of a soul that has already received in spirit what the senses have not yet confirmed. The one who abides in calm expectancy is never anxious, for they understand that the unseen is already in motion, and that haste is disbelief in disguise. The power of calm expectancy lies in its silence. It does not shout affirmations into the void. It whispers, "It is done," with quiet assurance. When the word has been spoken and the image formed, the work is already complete in the unseen. The calm, expectant soul rests in that knowing. They no longer check the soil every hour to see if the seed has sprouted. They water it with gratitude and trust, knowing that time and law are allies, not obstacles. The moment you speak with conviction, the law begins its work. The only thing left to do is remain in harmony with its unfolding. Expectancy is not passive. It is an active vibration of faith that magnetizes its own fulfillment. There is a vast difference between waiting and expecting. Waiting is filled with tension and doubt, as if fearing disappointment. Expecting, when calm, is filled with quiet joy, as if already tasting the harvest. The expectant soul walks through each day with serenity, moving naturally, unhurried, guided by the inner assurance that all things are aligning perfectly. They do not need signs to believe. They believe and thus signs appear. This calm expectancy is the secret atmosphere of miracles. Every great manifestation in history was conceived not in frenzy, but in still confidence. The creative power of the universe does not respond to anxiety, for anxiety vibrates out of harmony with divine order. The universe is rhythmic, not rushed. It works in pulses and cycles, each phase unfolding with precision. When you learn to match its rhythm, you discover that peace itself is productivity. From that peace, all power flows. The anxious mind believes it must act constantly to ensure results. It speaks affirmations in panic. It prays with fear. It rushes to do something to prove its faith. But such action is contradiction, for true faith needs no proof. Calm expectancy is effortless, because it rests in knowing that the word, once spoken with alignment, carries its own momentum. The law never forgets a command. It requires only that you cease to interfere. Anxiety is interference. It digs up the seed before it can take root. There is a sacred dignity in calm expectancy. It is the posture of one who knows their divine inheritance. They do not chase prosperity. They prepare for it. They do not plead for love. They become love's dwelling place. Their actions are not driven by desperation, but by readiness. Calm expectancy arranges the soul into a state of receptivity. It is the cup turned upward, empty yet certain of being filled. The universe can only pour into a vessel that is still. This stillness is not the stillness of idleness, but of mastery. It is the silence before music, the pause before dawn. The mind trained in calm expectancy is like a lake on a windless morning, its surface unbroken, perfectly reflective. The divine pattern can imprint itself only upon such still water. When the surface of thought is agitated by worry, the reflection distorts. But when it is calm, the image of fulfillment appears clearly, and soon the outer world mirrors it. To live in calm expectancy is to reverse the world's habit of fear. Society teaches constant striving, that security comes from struggle, and progress from exhaustion. Yet the law of spirit is opposite. Peace precedes progress. Only the calm attract completion. The hurried word repels fulfillment, because it carries the vibration of doubt. The calm word draws fulfillment, because it speaks as authority. The difference between a command and a plea lies in tone. Calm expectancy is the tone of command. When you speak your word and then rest in quiet joy, you align yourself with the creative rhythm of life. Every atom of the universe begins to move toward your decree. You may not see this movement at first. It happens in silence. But trust that silence, it is not absence but incubation. The calm, expectant heart recognizes this stage and rejoices in it. The impatient heart calls it delay and destroys its own harvest through disbelief. Calm expectancy is the bridge between spoken word and manifested form. You may practice this by simple observation. When a child plants a seed, they do not dig it up to ensure it is growing. They play in confidence that it will. Their joy waters the soil better than any labor. So too must you treat your desires. Seek them, see them, feel them as complete, and then go about your day in quiet contentment. The less you worry about the how, the faster the universe reveals it. Worry is the fog that hides the path. Expectancy clears it. There is a profound grace that surrounds the calmly expectant soul. They move through life with unforced ease, doors open for them without knocking, not because they are lucky, but because their vibration is pure receptivity. Life rushes to fill a vacuum, and calm expectancy is the largest vacuum of all. The empty space where doubt once lived, now occupied only by serene knowing. The law of correspondence ensures that the external must match the internal. As within, so without. The moment your inner world settles into peace, the outer world begins to reorder itself to reflect that peace. Calm expectancy is also the cure for delay. Delay is never external. It is always inner resistance, the mind oscillating between belief and disbelief. The instant you release this tension, and rest in knowing. The current accelerates. The energy that was once trapped in conflict becomes available for creation. It is as if the stream of manifestation, once dammed by worry, suddenly breaks through and rushes forward with power. You do not need to push. You only need to stop holding it back. To expect calmly is to know that divine timing is perfect. The ego's clock demands immediacy. The soul's clock knows eternity. When you live in calm expectancy, you stop measuring progress by hours and begin to measure it by vibration. You ask not, when will it come, but how peaceful am I now? For peace is the surest sign that your manifestation is imminent. The closer you are to stillness, the nearer you are to form. Calm expectancies transforms the quality of action. When you act from anxiety, you scatter energy. When you act from peace, every gesture becomes magnetic. You no longer rush or hesitate. You move deliberately, guided by quiet intuition. The next step reveals itself naturally. Without struggle, opportunities that seemed distant begin to present themselves. People appear at the right time. Resources align, and circumstances unfold with effortless precision. The outer efficiency is the reflection of inner calm. There is wisdom in doing less, but feeling more. Calm expectancy is not laziness. It is emotional mastery. You are no longer a servant to appearances. You do not let conditions dictate your inner state. You hold your peace as a sacred flame that no wind can extinguish. The more the outer world demands panic, the more you rest, the more chaos surrounds you. The deeper your calm becomes. In that centered silence, your power multiplies. The calm expectant one speaks few words, but those words carry authority. They do not repeat their affirmations 100 times, for once is enough. When spoken from certainty, they do not chase opportunities, for opportunities are drawn to the field of their peace. They do not fear loss, for they understand that all that belongs to them in law cannot depart. Calm expectancy replaces all striving with serenity. It is not withdrawal from life, but dominion over it. The world often mistakes calm for weakness, yet it is the highest strength to remain tranquil in uncertainty, is the mark of true mastery. The turbulent mind cannot hear divine direction, but the calm mind receives it effortlessly. In the still heart, guidance comes like a whisper carried on windless air, clear, simple, undeniable. Those who learn to trust this calm find themselves guided to the right place, the right person, the right action, every time. When calm expectancy becomes your natural state, fear loses its vocabulary, doubt becomes foreign to your tongue. You no longer say, "I hope it works out." You say, "Of course it is working." You no longer say, "Maybe someday." You say, "It is unfolding now." Each word, spoken in that tone of certainty, rearranges the molecules of your world. You radiate such assurance that even obstacles dissolve before reaching you. The law bends around your stillness, as water bends around a stone. The true power of calm expectancy lies in surrender. The surrender not of will, but of worry. It is the release of the human habit to control, replaced by the divine habit to trust. You learn to let go of the question, how, and rest in it is done. You cease trying to make manifestation happen, and instead allow it to reveal itself. The moment you reach that state, manifestation becomes inevitable, for you have aligned with the eternal rhythm of creation that never hurries, never delays, and never errs in its perfect unfolding. There is a hush that falls upon the soul when creation completes its circle, the instant when the spoken word, the image held, and the faith sustained merge into a single radiant pulse. It is the exact moment when vibration solidifies into form, when the unseen bows into visibility, and when the speaker realizes that the word and the world are one. This moment does not announce itself with thunder or lightning. It arrives as quiet recognition, as serene inevitability. You feel it before you see it. It is as though the air changes texture, dense with presence, charged with knowing, and you understand that what was once an idea now lives as reality. The exact moment is the consummation of law. It is when cause meets effect in perfect harmony. Every prayer, every affirmation, every declaration travels through unseen corridors until it finds the frequency where fulfillment resides. The one who lives in faith senses when that alignment occurs. There is no guessing, no hoping, no strain. Something within whispers, "It is done." That whisper carries more power than 1,000 shouts. It is the sound of spiritual authority, recognizing itself in manifestation. Before this moment, the human heart often trembles between belief and doubt. It affirms and then questions, plants the seed, and then wonders if it will grow. Yet the law waits patiently, unmoving, for the vibration to settle into certainty. The moment you stop oscillating, when your words no longer contradict themselves, the command takes root. The exact moment cannot come to the divided mind. It arrives only when inner contradiction dissolves. Faith must become singular, a single tone, resonating through thought, feeling, and word. The journey to this moment is often invisible. You may speak your word and see no outward change. Days or months may pass, and appearances may even seem contrary. Yet beneath the surface, forces rearrange themselves in quiet precision. The law is never idle. It weaves events, people, and timing into perfect sequence. The exact moment is not the beginning of creation, but the revelation of what has been forming all along. To the unaware, it looks sudden. To the awakened, it feels inevitable. The moment of realization is more powerful than the manifestation itself. When you feel that shift, that deep inner recognition, you no longer need proof. You no longer wait. You begin to walk, as if the invisible has already clothed itself in form. The universe, obedient to conviction, rushes to provide evidence. The outer event becomes mere reflection of the inner acknowledgement. Manifestation is simply the echo of your certainty. At this moment, the old language of effort falls away. There is no need to repeat affirmations or grasp at techniques. The word has already traveled through the ether and struck the chord of fulfillment. You are not calling for creation. You are standing in it. This is the still point where human will yields to divine rhythm. You feel it as peace that surpasses reason, a calm that cannot be shaken even if appearances have not yet caught up. The power lies not in sight, but in knowing. The exact moment is not confined to time. It happens in consciousness. One person may struggle for years, and then in a single instant of surrender, everything changes. What was withheld for decades rushes forward in a breath. This is not delay, but preparation, the slow dissolving of resistance until alignment can occur. The instant resistance ceases, the blessing appears. The law is timeless. It does not withhold or hasten. It waits for the vibration of readiness, and then it delivers without fail. There is a sensation to this moment that words can scarcely describe. It feels like exhalation after holding breath too long. You release control, and in that release, everything aligns. You may be walking, or reading, or sitting quietly. When it arrives, that serene awareness that all is arranged, fear loses its grip, impatience falls silent. You know that the invisible has already taken shape. From that second onward, every outer movement flows effortlessly. Coincidences multiply, paths open, and opportunities once locked now reveal their keys. This moment cannot be forced by intellect or ritual. It is born of deep trust. The mind cannot calculate its arrival. Only the heart can recognize it. It is the meeting place of divine order and human surrender. To chase it is to delay it, for chasing declares absence. But to dwell in peace is to invite it, for peace declares completion. The exact moment arrives when you no longer need it to arrive. Before it comes, The soul often endures the quiet tension of faith, that sacred waiting where nothing seems to move. This is the gestation period of manifestation. The world sees only stillness, but beneath, creation stirs. The seed lies beneath the soil, gathering strength unseen. The wise do not dig it up, they trust the process. The impatient dig and start over, delaying their harvest. But the one who rests in calm expectancy allows the invisible to ripen. The exact moment is the blooming of that unseen seed. This moment also reveals the truth about divine timing. The universe never delivers too early, for premature manifestation collapses under its own weight. Everything arrives when the vessel is ready to receive it. The exact moment is therefore not luck, but perfect proportion. The meeting of readiness and law. What you call delay is simply the universe aligning every thread so that fulfillment can arrive without friction. When it comes, it fits so perfectly that you cannot imagine it having come any other way. The exact moment does not always announce itself through grand events. Sometimes it is subtle, an inner ease while performing the simplest act, a sense of rightness in the air, a feeling of being quietly carried. You may wake up one morning and find that the desire which once consumed you feels already complete. That is the sign. The energy has shifted from wanting to having. You have crossed the invisible line where faith has turned to fact, even if the fact is not yet visible. The outer manifestation is only a formality after this. When you reach this state, gratitude flows effortlessly. You do not thank as a formality or strategy. You thank because you cannot help it. Gratitude becomes the natural language of your being. You feel grateful not because something happened, but because you have touched the eternal assurance that it must. This is the vibration that anchors manifestation. Gratitude seals the word in the unseen, fixing it into law so firmly that no circumstance can undo it. The exact moment is not dramatic, because drama belongs to doubt. When one is certain, the arrival feels natural. You recognize it not by excitement, but by calm. It feels like remembering rather than discovery, as though your soul knew it all along and is merely catching up to its own design. Those who watch from outside call it miracle, but to you, it is law fulfilling itself. You expected it, though perhaps you did not know when or how. Now that it stands before you, it feels as inevitable as sunrise. This moment reveals the truth about power. Power is not in striving, arguing, or demanding. It is in quiet realization. The universe responds to recognition, not request. To recognize is to claim, and to claim is to create. The exact moment of creation is the instant recognition becomes total, when no part of you doubts that your word has already shaped reality. Once reached, no external circumstance can threaten it, for outer conditions are merely ripples following the inner wave. You may recall moments in life when something within you simply clicked, when confusion cleared and you knew what to do or what would happen. That clarity is the miniature version of this principle. It is the consciousness of completion before completion appears. It is the divine signal that your vibration has reached its target. From there, manifestation unfolds like dominoes falling in perfect sequence. The external world, which once seemed resistant, begins to cooperate with ease. Everything begins to flow toward you, because everything has already aligned within you. In this sacred instant, prayer ceases to be petition and becomes recognition. You do not speak to heaven, you speak as heaven. You feel yourself part of the same current that moves galaxies, and you realize that your word, once spoken in harmony with that current, cannot return void. The separation between desire and reality dissolves. You see that they were never apart. They were two ends of one continuous vibration. The exact moment is the merging of those ends into a single circle of creation that has no beginning and no end. Once this awareness dawns, life itself becomes a series of these moments. Every act, every word, every thought becomes part of an unbroken conversation with the infinite. You begin to understand that manifestation is not an event but a state. the state of perpetual recognition. You no longer live between asking and receiving. You live in the eternal now, where both exist simultaneously, and within that now, every word you speak, every vision you hold, becomes reality the instant it is born in consciousness, for the law has heard and already fulfilled it in the silence beyond sight. The circle closes where it began, at a word breathed into stillness, and received by a universe that only knows how to say yes. Yet in this final turning, the path reveals itself as a single thread woven through 8 luminous stations, each a facet of one law, each a bell that rang the same note in a different octave. You can trace the thread with your fingertips even now. First the spark, then the sound, then the settling into certainty, until the air around you thickens with presence and the unseen takes its seat upon the visible. You were handed a wand in the very first teaching, and perhaps you did not know it, but you felt it. The tongue warmed, the breath gathered, and a sound went out that did not vanish. This was the law of the spoken word, where the decree is not commentary but command, where the syllable does not describe life but drafts it. Each utterance traveled into substance like a seed into dark soil, silent and busy, certain of its own flowering. You learned that to speak is to send, to declare is to legislate, and to guard the mouth is to guard destiny. In that realization, the world became malleable, no longer a stone wall, but soft clay, ready for the impress of a word carried on breath. Then came the hum beneath the world, the recognition that sound is not merely heard, but felt, that every sentence carries a pitch that summons its twin from the field of possibility. This was vibration of prosperity. You found that gratitude brightened tone, fear dulled it, and calm expectancy held it true. You discovered that life is a chamber of resonance and that your days faithfully echoed whatever note you sounded most. Where complaint once carved narrow channels, praise widened rivers. Where scarcity had been rehearsed, abundance now played in major chords. You became conscious not only of what you said, but of the music your saying made. Out of this music emerged a purity, a still chord where word and feeling were no longer at odds. This was moment of alignment, the quiet hinge upon which outcomes swing. Desire stopped knocking. It entered. Affirmation stopped reaching. It rested. You felt the unmistakable shift from asking to knowing, from exertion to ease, and in that shift the creative machinery clicked into place. The image within you and the declaration upon your lips married in a single vibration, and the universe, recognizing its own tone, returned your sound to you wrapped in form. With alignment came a treasury that had always been there, spread like sky over your days, though your eyes had been closed to it. This was the invisible treasury. You learned that supply is not a caravan to chase but a river, already running. That everything you require exists in prototype. Ideas, allies, appointments, solutions, and waits only for recognition. Ownership ceased to be a matter of possession and became a matter of knowing. You began to speak like an heir rather than a petitioner. And the vault of unseen good answered, not out of favoritism, but out of correspondence to your tone of inheritance. Still, the old habit of shadow speech occasionally reached for the pen, eager to write its small decrees across your days. You heard it and turned it. This was reversal of negation. Not by denial did you reverse it, but by higher definition. It is difficult. Softened into it is unfolding. I am late. Yielded to time expands for me. You trained the inner conversation where no one hears you, knowing that the quiet sentence shapes the loud event. With each correction, you untied another knot in the current. With each blessing, you widened the channel through which your good could rush unimpeded. The images you carried began to clarify and brighten, not as fantasies spun from wish, but as patterns received from a wiser room within. This was sacred imagination. You ceased to peer at the horizon for proof, and chose instead to dwell in the finished picture with reverent ease, touching the fabrics of the life already yours, in essence, tasting its air, hearing its ordinary sounds as if they were happening now. Gratitude animated those images, giving them depth and temperature. Patience kept your hands from digging up the seed to check its progress. Silence extended the canvas until the design could settle without tremor. You realized that imagination is the lens and law is the light, and together they project the scene the world must display. And then the hush deepened, not into absence but into presence. The breath lengthened. The body felt arranged, as though some inner furniture had finally been set in its rightful place, and the room was ready to receive a guest. This was the power of calm expectancy. You were not waiting. You were hosting. You did what needed doing without hurry, spoke when the word arose and rested when it did not, moved with the clock but obeyed a slower, sovereign rhythm under it. The seed was none of your worry now. Your task was the weather of your heart. You kept it temperate and clear. Life, which had once seemed to require pushing, began to behave like water loves a channel. It ran where you had carved peace. Out of this atmosphere, the revelation emerged with the softness of certainty. This is the exact moment. You recognized it, not by fireworks but by inevitability. The air had a different weight, like a letter pressed with a wax seal. Already closed, already addressed, already sent. Time became a servant, instead of a verdict. Your steps fell into an unforced choreography with the world. The message arrived, the door that had always been yours unlatched. The person you needed to meet turned the corner exactly when you did. To those who watched, it looked sudden, but you knew it as the ripening of a fruit, long formed within the tree. In this epilogue, the path shows itself as a single breath, taken 8 ways. First, you inhaled the truth of your authorship. In the law of the spoken word, then you felt the body of life vibrate to meet you in vibration of prosperity. You tuned the instrument until speech and belief were the same, tone in moment of alignment. You realized that your name was already on the ledger of the invisible treasury. You turned the valve of speech in reversal of negation, so the current could run forward. You sketched the finished room and walked inside it in sacred imagination. You sat in the chair of your own house without glancing at the door in the power of calm expectancy. And now, in the exact moment, you find that the guest was never late. You were always entertaining, present. Look then, how the world behaves under this recognition. Where before you rehearsed outcomes, now outcomes rehearse you, placing you at marks you did not tape on the stage, yet somehow knew. Where before you tried to hold reality steady with both hands, now reality holds you, and those same hands are free to bless, to give, to arrange beauty without bargaining for it. You feel the quiet commerce of grace moving through ordinary hours, the email that answers 2 problems at once, the bill forgiven without explanation, the conversation that plants a future harvest in ground you were not even looking at yesterday. None of it feels miraculous because the miraculous has become your baseline. You do not shrug at it, you steward it, you do not apologize for it. You radiate it so that others may catch the note and hum along. This final station is not a finishing line, but a posture. It is the stance of one who has proved the law by being the law in small things, until the small things revealed themselves as the whole. You speak little, because the tone beneath the words is doing most of the work. When you do speak, rooms adjust. Not because of charisma or argument, but because all 8 stations are folded into the syllable, and the syllable knows where it is going. You catch yourself smiling at timing that once would have startled you, offering thanks that has nothing to do with outcome and everything to do with the exquisite rightness of sequence. You are not surprised by ease, only grateful to notice it. If there is any counsel that remains, it is only the counsel of fidelity. Keep the altar swept where the word is spoken in the law of the spoken word. Keep your instrument tuned to the clear pitch of vibration of prosperity. Keep the chord pure in moment of alignment, where effort yields to identity. Keep your title deeds in sight for the invisible treasury, not as talismans, but as reminders that supply is a nature, not a windfall. Keep a hand gently on the wheel of reversal of negation, easing the craft back to true north when old currents tug. Keep the windows of sacred imagination open to the weather of gratitude. Keep the hearth of the power of calm expectancy warm, so arrival always finds you ready. And when the exact moment passes through you, let it pass into the world as form, as service, as quiet radiance that makes it easier for every life near yours to believe in its own lawful blooming. For this is the secret contained in all eight, that what you sought as event is in truth a state, and what you called arrival is really recognition, a constant recognition that the word and the world are one, that the law is love spelled as order, that abundance is not an episode, but a temperature you maintain, and that the moment you know this without argument, the universe does what it has always done in the presence of such knowing. It places into your hands what your voice has already placed into the fabric of things, and it keeps doing so as steadily as breath, as faithfully as dawn, as naturally as a river finding the sea.